Crouch. Bind. Set.
Joe presents the House of Rugby, together with Guinness.
Hello everybody, welcome back to a Best of Summer special, brought to you by Joe, together with our friends at Guinness. Summer, I hear you say, yes, well, quite. As the rain lashes down, what better way to spend an hour as we look back over some of the most enjoyable stories in our first year of the show. And on this episode, we are going to focus solely on one man. You'll be gobsmacked to hear that man is not Mr. James Haskell, but instead it is the best of the three wonderful episodes that we did with Mr. Ben Ryan, the England Sevens coach who went on to win Olympic gold, of course, with Fiji. As I mentioned, he came in for 3 shows over the course of our first series, and over the next 60 minutes or so we'll bring you some of the very best moments. But before we get into all of that, we do need to just start with an issue that has haunted the show ever since we began. It is the mystery breather.
There's a couple of things I wanted to just cover off myself this week, because I know you always start with the agenda. When I listen to this podcast back, on the odd occasion I do, and I don't think we're going to be interesting as a test because it's normally tins. One of us is a massive day snorer. So on the audio, when you listen to it back, someone is a serious heavy breather. Now, I think it's Tins. Right. Because I think he's got a nose like a whistle. He sounds a bit like a kettle. Yes. Or it's me because I'm real heavy breathing. And I've had a few comments from people. Panting. No, just like, like heavy breathing in between talking. And so when, say, you're doing a little piece, you can hear it. And then with Tins, you can hear it's like... Yeah. Little whistle, I don't know why his nose has been fixed, but not completely fixed.
Chitty Chitty Bang, the Toot Sweets and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Exactly.
I've just got my producer in my ear who's saying that the one week we haven't had it was the week that we had Andrew Trimble as guest.
Right, fine.
Well, to be honest, it is almost certainly both of them. I think we all know that by now. But one man who doesn't breathe heavily is, of course, Ben Ryan, who spent most of his time with us looking ultra cool, very smooth indeed. Something that we investigated at every turn. First up, his big turtleneck.
You do look a bit like sort of a, almost like a seal on the front of a German U-boat, like, you know, with your turtleneck.
What would I be doing?
Well, just ordering people around.
Quite naval.
Yeah, very naval. That's what I thought. Yeah.
But I already told you that gingers don't have a sense of direction, so I wouldn't be able to do that, would I?
This is very true.
Go around in circles in the channel.
And you can only come out at night because you'd burst into flames on the front of a sub out in the day, in the sun.
But the sea, if it's cold and doesn't reflect, I don't know, maybe that would work.
Might be right. I do like it. I do like it. Heavy wool knit. I feel like I should have had a turtleneck. Would I like a good turtleneck?
It's a roll neck, is it? Or is it turtleneck?
Oh, don't get pedantic about it. Like, it's something.
You've gone with a knitwear. It's not naval knit this week. I'd call it country knit, gardening knit.
Yeah, probably outer London borough knit.
But you know, he's chilled out because before it was like a turtleneck. He was obviously feeling like a bit insecure, like wasn't sure what we were going to do about. Now he's rolled it down relaxed. A few inches to like.
What would happen next?
I'd love if you came in a woolen vest, a bit like. I tell you who would look like Wallace and Gromit, where he like loses the sleeves. I can imagine you. In a Wallace style thing.
How are you? You're wearing a coat this week. We always like to start with your couture. Sort of, it's a woolly jumper this week, but with a trendy coat as well.
Yeah, I had to wrap up warm. I came straight from Roslyn Park Sevens.
Did you?
So that was fun.
Well, fashion game on point, what else would you expect? But before we dive into some of Ben's stories, he actually started by telling us about his former life as a teacher and a very famous pupil that used to sit in his classroom.
Emilia Clarke, who's Daenerys in Game of Thrones, I taught her netball and I taught her PSHE. So that's effectively kind of...
What was it?
Sex education, like how not to get STIs, things like that.
What was she like?
Yeah, she would ask questions to try to get me to blush, because you do it in pairs, you see. Yeah. So female and male together, and then you ask questions. Yeah. And at the end of every lesson, they can ask questions. So I remember one kid.
Which I've been in your class.
You would have probably enjoyed it. One kid said, look, we were doing STIs. Said, I don't understand about
I've got golf STI. They're unbelievable.
How you can catch.
You've probably got the full house, haven't you?
I've never actually. Always bag up. That's the message for the youth who listen to this. Too much casual approach.
Drink responsibly, play responsibly.
100%. Honestly, there's just a very laissez-faire attitude to that in the world of professional sport, I think. I'm always shocked and appalled at the lack of discipline when it comes to that.
Public Health England will be on the phone tomorrow.
Anyway, back to
Emilia's STIs.
Yeah, so this one kid just said, I don't understand how you can catch an STI from oral sex. You know how you can catch him just talking to people. He thought it was just ringing up. So he got a lot of stick for a few terms, and she would ask awkward questions. So then we ended up creating a box where you would get questions posted in your box, then we could filter them.
Was she interested in rugby, out of interest? Would she like to come on the House of Rugby? Probably
You're never getting
not.
her on here, mate.
No.
Well, you never say never. Well, the offer is still very much open, Amelia. I know you're a huge fan of the show. We're certainly huge fans of your work, perhaps not working quite as hard at the moment. We'd love you to come and join us. Anyway, enough about Game of Thrones. Let's head back to King of the Castle. Ultimately, all things revolve around Haskell. So, when did Ben first meet the Hask?
After the school match, which no doubt you'll talk about, I then turned up to something and you were coaching.
Okay.
And I was like, Dad, you know that school I got red carded to, and that nice teacher that we met, he's actually coaching me. Thank God I wasn't rude, because that would have come back and haunted me. And then you did.
And the B side of the story is, do you remember the incident? Because
Vaguely.
I do. I remember it.
Quite a lot of water under the bridge since then.
I remember at Rosslyn Park Sevens, we had got through to finals day, and I think there'd been some piece in the paper that said something like St Edward's were favourites to win it, and you had cut it out and put it on your windscreen of your minibus. Either you or Dom Shabu.
That wasn't me. I was,
Or
they
Tom
wouldn't
Evans was
they
maybe as well.
They wouldn't let me have scissors. I was only there with plastic ones.
It wasn't like very well cut.
Oh, so it was like badly cut out.
Badly cut,
I think that would have been one of the other lads, because
Max was there. Max Evans.
Yeah.
It was a good side.
We had a great side, actually. It was always like, people would go, what was it like at school? But it was a sick team. There was me, Tom Evans. Everyone always starts for themselves.
Still glorifying the school days.
I know. Get over it. Also, so we use that as motivation.
You used that as an external motivation and beat us, I think.
Did you win Rosslyn?
But I think that was when England schools were clashing as well, so we couldn't have Johnny Goodridge playing, who I think James Forrester played maybe that day.
Yeah. But no, I think one of the boys would have done that. One of the absolute keynotes. I'm not sure Tommy ever reads the paper. So I think it was probably our coach. It was Ken.
Oh yeah,
Mad Ken Hopkins would have done it.
He
who's a legend of a man. But he was completely mad. He had Ken Hopkins, our school teacher, had a piece of paper with meticulous notes written on it, and he would write them out in pen, and then he would highlight over them. And it would he'd always pack the minibus with his piece of paper, do everything with his piece of paper. And if you took the piece of paper away from him, literally everything just went boom, imploded.
The day unfolded.
Yeah, but it was amazing. So I think some of the lads wound him up. But I love Ken. He's great. He's actually one of the only coaches I still kind of speak to from my school days. He calls me up every now and then. Tells me
is he retired?
Yeah, he's retired. He's retired now. He calls me up and it says, sort your discipline out and things like that. I'm like, Ken, come on, mate. I haven't spoken to you.
Well, back then it
Very
was
good point.
obvious as well.
Obvious. Sort it out. I'm the most carded England player of all time.
Are you really?
Yeah, I know. What a horrific stat. It's something like...
How many have you got?
No, it's like yellow cards. It's just...
What does that say about you?
Yellow's in modern era as well, so... So a Dooley, for example, would have picked up a lot of yellows.
Mate, yeah,
well, actually, he might have just picked up post-match bans, because he was quite dark arts and surreptitious about it, wasn't he?
Yeah, but all those people now say, the dark arts. It's like dark arts because they had one camera. There was one bloke with a magic lantern filming it from the halfway line. We've got 17 camera views and some absolute
26
in
to
a
30
box.
on a big game.
Yeah, 26 to 30. Some bloke in a box watching, ready to do you in the eye, and then you've got the floor manager of the stadium replaying it 1,000 times. So there's no chance of you doing any dark arts. I mean, you'd have to be like the Predator in one of them suits and go in to get away with anything. So no one ever does it now. And also, everyone has a fight now, but everyone just pushes. No one ever does anything anymore. So it's like, they're having a bit of a scrap. Yeah. It's like they're not. They're just really pushing each other and swearing loudly. Then everyone has to apologise for everyone swearing. It's like, it'd be a lot better if everyone just filled each other in. It'd be a lot more interesting.
Producer Size clicking away furiously backstage. 6 yellow cards in 77 tests you've had. The third most in international rugby union.
Yeah.
In history. Well, it's only been in.
Yeah, there's been a couple of I bet it's unfair.
What does that say about you as a player?
That I'm probably a bit mal-coordinated. I think... I don't know. Do you know what they were? The thing is, they're all quite for different bits and pieces. Yeah, they're all for different pieces. Like, I won a tripped up French guy. The ball came off the back of a line out, bounced. I went that way, and he stepped. I literally just put my leg out.
Are you going to go through each card now?
No.
That'd make a heck of a show.
I feel this is therapeutic. I feel I'm sharing with you.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
No, I think there have been a few bits and pieces like that, but actually, latterly, I've been pretty good.
Well, Ben worked his way into the England coaching setup, led the Sevens to their first World Cup final in 20 years, but was it a role that he enjoyed?
At the start, I loved it. At the end, I hated it.
Really?
So it was.
And what changed?
Yeah. I changed a bit because of the system. So I came from from school, teaching, and I worked all my way up. I played professional, I know I don't look like it, and some people actually don't ever feel that I even played.
The game has changed, Hask, sitting alongside.
Yeah,
Plus, good nines don't make tackles anyway. They can point, make noise.
This is very true. I think that's the one position in the game that can still avoid making a tackle. Yeah. The only problem is, though, where it goes horribly wrong is if someone breaks the line of defence and they're standing behind a ruck and someone's bought a horrific dummy and like a winger that's the size of a forward now comes steaming through and they've got to do a chop tackle. Yeah. My favourite was one of my ex-teammates got our big winger, T, ran through and handed him off so hard he went back in time. He actually, by the time he'd come out of the tumble, he looked younger. Yeah. He got, it's the real find on the internet. It was unbelievable. And I'm thinking, he saw him coming and went like this, and got honestly folded, disappeared like dust. There was like, Back to the Future with the tyre marks. That was like him, footprints,
with
flames. Yeah. He went back in time. It was that bad.
You're talking about Tangeli Nairavoro?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you say it?
Big T.
Big T.
Yeah. It's difficult. It's quite a long name to pronounce every time you want to say it. It's just go.
I'm inside so it's fair to call him by his real name.
Yeah.
What was it that changed then?
You can't say, your name's too long, so I'm not going to...
No, okay. Again, I'd say, one thing on that note, this is like borderline race. It's not. I won't go there. Don't panic. Don't panic.
Like that.
No. I'm just making sure because we don't offend anyone. Was that I was at our post-match dinner against Samoa, right? And the president introduced the president from Samoa, and he went, "I can't pronounce your name, so I'm just going to call you Steve." Would Steve come up? And I'm thinking, you can't really do that. No, you can't really do that. But with T, it's
that's what he's known.
Yeah, that's what he's known. That's his nickname.
So, where did it all go wrong for Ben and the RFU?
I fell out with my bosses pretty reasonably spectacularly, and then kind of like after World Cup. I signed non-disclosures about a couple of these things.
We don't want to get in trouble.
But I mean, what I can say is I came into training after, so we had just finished the World Cup. First time the team had got to the World Cup final in 20 years. Won the semi-final. Just felt absolutely no love at all. Didn't feel any emotion. No glee that we'd just got into the final. And I thought, well, this is not what I should be doing. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And then came back home, and then we were starting pre-season, and Rob Andrews was waiting for me in the office at Lensbury, and him and Joe Lydon pretty much gave me the ultimatum. Well, either say you're stepping down, or we'll reapply. You're gonna have to reapply for your job. So at that point, I was like, well, I'm not staying.
And so he found his way to Fiji, or rather, Fiji found its way to him via a very unusual path. Sit back and enjoy a quite remarkable tale.
And then a mate said to me on Twitter, "Do you fancy Fiji jobs available?"
It came through Twitter?
Yeah, it came through Twitter originally, yeah. Social media, right? It has its benefits.
So I met my missus.
Is it really?
Yeah. Has its benefits.
Who approached who?
What, she offered the Fiji job to you?
Yeah, she did. It was weird. I went for it as well, but they picked some other bloke. Great the turtleneck.
So how did you end up going out?
I had the interview on I put my ACV in, and I'd actually played against Fiji. I'd coached against Fiji, and had a couple of Fijian boys that had played from the British Army for England. I saw a Damu, a really good player. Yeah. And they said, let's have a Skype interview at 2 in the afternoon in Suva, 2 in the morning. In Teddington, where I was living, and had the laptop ready. I took the turtleneck off. I was wearing a tie, actually. At 2 in the morning, a couple of double espressos, and then 2:33, 3:30, and no one had called. And, if you've been to Fiji, I know you haven't been, but it's Fiji time, right? No hurry, no worry, And so eventually 4 o'clock, it fires up, and they just project my face onto 35 Gordon Street at the CEO's back wall. Everyone's kind of peering in, asking if I knew Johnny Wilkinson, if I'd met the Queen, kind of serious questions, really. And
what did you answer?
Have not met the Queen, and I'd done one session with Johnny Wilkinson, so I shook his hand. I think that was about...
Sort of similar to me.
That's what Queen's job.
Yeah, but no, not met the Queen. And I stayed awake, which I thought was a success. And then in the morning, I thought I'd better find out a bit more about Fiji because I'd never been. And I got on the Fiji...
Did they give you the job then and there? Or did they say
I got on the Fiji Times website to have a look and see a bit more about Fiji. And the first bit was the CEO that just interviewed me had been sacked immediately after my interview. Right. So that was that. And then 2 weeks later, I'm in Jamie Oliver's in Richmond, and we're out having dinner.
Not in his house?
Not in
I was about
his
to say,
house.
you are so big time.
that
If you
would-
are,
that'd
I
be
mean,
good.
yeah. So you in Jamie Oliver's restaurant, yeah.
Jamie Oliver's Italian, yeah.
Right,
sorry,
fine.
let's-
I was in Gordon Ramsay's
We need to be
restaurant.
specific.
Right, fine, yeah. Because people might think,
But
you know.
yeah, and I wasn't alluding to that because
Well, yeah, I think you were a little bit. You were like,
Do you reckon?
yeah, you were. I mean, Jamie
good chapter
Oliver's.
in the book.
Yeah. It's needless to say, I actually met Jamie Oliver in his official restaurant. Oh, really? Right, okay.
Has he got a fish restaurant? Is that what you said?
No, official.
That's Rick Stein.
Oh,
okay.
right. Rick Stein's. I know Rick Stein.
Do you?
Restaurant. Yeah, that's what we're doing. That's what we're saying. Okay,
Yes, yeah,
fine.
no,
Sorry to
I'm
interrupt
with you. I'm with you.
Sorry,
I'm
sorry.
the open goal.
So I see it's +679, which is Fiji. I pick it up and say hi, and said hi. This is Berlin Kafoa. I'm the acting chief executive of the Fiji Rugby Union. We've got a press conference in 20 minutes. So I said, okay, that's great. What's it about? He said, to appoint you as a new sevens coach. So I said, okay, do I get a say in this? He said, yeah, 20 minutes. Call me back. So we kind of went through the logistics of it all. Moving house, going to all that sort of stuff.
In 20 minutes?
Well, it didn't take that long. As
No,
soon
of
as I
course,
put the phone down, I was kind of like those decisions that you have to make sometimes in life that, you know, my heart was soaring thinking this is going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But your stomach is doing somersaults.
Yeah.
And I just picked a phone. I didn't know how long my contract was for, how much I was going to get paid, what it'd be like to live in Fiji, where the team were, who my bosses were. I just said, yeah, okay. And they said, great, if you can get there in about 4 days, you know, if you can buy your ticket. I should have realised, you know, the plane ticket, if you can buy your tickets, we'll reimburse you when you get, and then that never happened.
That old chestnut.
Yeah, and so then I went over, and then first 48 hours, it was like, okay, my boss is the military dictator of the country, Frank Bainimarama, who had his coup. His first coup, actually, was rugby related. So he delayed it a day because there was a big rugby match he wanted to watch.
Right.
So delayed that, then got his AK-47, off he went. And he was boss. So if you're prime minister of the country in Fiji, you're head of the Fiji Rugby Union. He eventually put his brother-in-law in charge of me as well, who had gone to prison for manslaughter, kicked and punched someone to death at a wedding. He's still head of the chairman of the Fiji Rugby Union, and head of the prison service in Fiji as well. And then
Andy.
Yeah, then they said, like, we've got no money, gone bankrupt, no sponsors, no one contracted. The boys had been just sitting around waiting to find out who the new coach was, because if it's a local coach, they might have not been picked because there were a lot of regional bias around things. So we did a fitness test first day, and I won the fitness test. And so there's like, that wasn't a good start. One of our boys had got his legs had cursed, so he's lying on the floor in the village for 2 days. He was our kicker, so that is difficult to really put him in the team if you couldn't
I can
stand
think of
up.
one or two other players who've been cursed, actually, in there. You've had a couple of those, haven't you?
Hands.
Your hands have been cursed the entire career.
Very amusing. People are cursing me now with well, actually, I don't play anymore, so it doesn't matter. With
the
voodoo dolls and stuff like that. Yeah. When you say he was legs were cursed,
Yeah,
does
said
that
someone to put a
manifest?
curse on him and so
anything to get out of a fitness test. I'm going to try that. I wonder if Chris Boyd will buy that one when I've got to do a fitness. Oh,
Good
sorry,
luck.
boss, my legs were cursed.
it worked for me. I mean, I bought it.
Yeah, you must help you, but I suppose you want to rock the boat early
No,
doors.
exactly. I just listened to everything. I didn't say, come on, let's get on with it. Because, there's a real belief around white and black magic in Fiji, as well as, heavy Christianity.
Yeah.
So I was getting all of this.
It must be something how good I absolutely love Fijian players. I love all and I just think it must have been unbelievable to see how
That ultimately was the reason that I stayed, because they told me then after the first tournament, not going to pay you for 6 months, and I didn't, I went unpaid, and that never got paid for that, and so all that stuff's going on, and it literally everything. But then when you're coaching with the boys, their enthusiasm, their love of the game, genuinely happy that you're there and grateful, working hard, and you're seeing these guys just need a little bit of prodding and pushing in the right direction. You need to just be honest with them and give them a bit of love, really, and consistency. They're going to flourish. But like coconut trees in Fiji, you need sunshine, water, and sustenance. They just need the basics. They weren't getting that. They weren't getting any feedback. You were find out if you were being dropped in the newspaper. They won one tournament. They won the Gold Coast tournament. The following week, they dropped 11 of the 12 players. It's just bizarre, some of the stuff that was happening. They were almost... I always say about Fiji, like, if Usain Bolt, 100-metre final, they're at the start line, Usain Bolt's going to win that race. But then as the gun goes, someone's chucked a big rock in the way and he's got to slow down, avoid it, gets tripped up, falls over, and then everyone else catches up. Given a bit of clear water, Fijian Pacific Island players are just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so I had these amazing players, and then we went on this roller coaster of a 3-year journey, really, that culminated in Rio. And it wasn't without its bad stuff that happened, but yeah.
I want to come back to obviously to the high. Tell us about the pan au chocolat story as well.
That was Moses Mawalu that I picked in the first tournament. And we were in Dubai, and I just come down to breakfast in Dubai at the hotel. He had 10 pan au chocolats and then 10 fried eggs on top of that. And I was like, Moses, what are you doing? He says, what's not to like? Bread good, eggs good. It's all good, isn't it? And I was like, okay, all right. And then after that moment, it's like, right, Moses, just want to see a colourful plate every time. So he would show me his plate with colour for lunch. So you got your greens and all that sort of stuff. And then you take a little bit off, put a bit on. And they would do that all the time. So from the outside, it might look like there's this white guy trying to tell them what to do. But they just wanted, you don't know what you don't know. They had no nutritional understanding. And it's a third world country, so you eat what you can when you can, often, and heavily sugared and carbohydrated. So when there's all these stereotypes like, oh yeah, Fijian boys, they switch off at this time in the afternoon, or it's because they've had these massive sugar highs and crashes. That there's ridiculous highest levels of diabetes in the world per capita in Fiji.
Yeah.
Obesity's through the roof. Samoan Airways, I think they're the first airline to actually weigh you. You pay more for how much you weigh.
Is that right?
Yeah. So you're learning all this stuff all the time. All my staff up until the last year were all Fijian, didn't bring anyone overseas. And it leaked from the press about me not getting paid, so they realised I was there for other reasons. And then we had that big Dubai win in my first tournament, properly in charge, where we beat New Zealand by 44 points to 0. And it's still their heaviest international defeat for New Zealand at any level, international level. And so after that tournament, everyone's like, oh, Ben Ryan's like this amazing coach. That was the first time I'd given a Fijian boy a can of Red Bull before a game.
Really?
And they were flying around in that semi-final.
I bet. I mean, that is rocket charging some pretty dangerous weapons.
Was the skill set just incredible? Because I'm always frightened that when I play seven or I see just physically how big they are. You don't realise it. How hard they are to tackle, but then also the fact that they carry the ball in one hand and will literally fight like hell and just offload at all costs.
Yeah, they're based on background. I mean, a lot of them have man strength. So a lot of the boys grew up in cutting sugarcane at sort of 5 a.m. till 10 a.m, sleep in the field, then load it on the trucks when they came in the evening. So they had that kind of farmer strength.
Yeah.
But then you're playing this one-touch rugby in the villages, so it's uneven surfaces with probably not a very good ball, or a t-shirt scrumped up, or plastic bottle filled with sand. So all this stuff's great. All the small stuff, long passing wasn't so good because you didn't get to practice it. And it's lots of people playing in this really chaotic game, so you really got to be aware of all of that. And it's only one touch, so they're naturally getting better all of that. But then the negative is a couple of things. I mean, you're not on the beach practicing your clear outs, and you're not, that's nothing I ever saw. And all the tackles are up here because that's where the ball is. That's where they're offloading. So they're playing against that all the time. So it's a natural. It's not like an ill-disciplined thing so much. There's technical imbalances on bad technique on some of the stuff that they wouldn't have got taught. So all that stuff. So you don't want someone to come in and go, like, we're going to give Fiji 4G fields and all these brand new balls, because then you'd lose that what they've grown up doing. You just want to kind of sharpen the blade. But they're so resilient, so robust. One of the surgeons in one of the French clubs was telling me one of the boys did his ACL, and he broke his scalpel twice repairing his ACL because it's so thick, the ligaments. Genetically very gifted, so talented. Get fit fast, they get fat fast. So you had to manage diets, and I took them off sugars for about 3 months before the Olympics, which was like getting them off crack. It was just
really. How did you do it? I mean, how do you stop?
Cold turkey, stopped at source. Anything I could shut them down. I mean, they were bribing people in the hotel for sugar. Closest place you get any chocolate was the petrol station, so I had them all on bonuses. If you get anyone gets near, just I'll bring a spare shirt or a rugby ball, and yeah, they were. But then they saw the benefits. They felt so much more energy. It looked great.
Yeah.
So when we got to Olympics and we were like, right, we're tapering, we're having some carbo loading. They came and saw me in the village and they're like, no, we want to stay as we are. Might have a bit more, might have a bit of bread or a bit of carbs, but actually feel good. And that goes against a lot of science. You don't. And so we had to kind of force them to have some stuff at the tournaments, just to get
energy
that.
and recovery and all that stuff.
Yeah. But as a group, they were amazing when eventually they were given this diet that really worked for them, and it was just another addition to the.
Tell us about Rio and the experience. I was going to very quickly say I've done 15 years of broadcasting, and my favourite interviewee of all that time is Nicky Little, who I interviewed after they beat Wales in the 2000s.
Last week at the varsity match. He was at the varsity match. He's a school teacher. He brought a load of boys down.
And I've interviewed him the week that Fiji beat Wales in the Rugby World Cup, and we never started the interview. We were eating steak in France, and he just spoke in the most amazing tones about how the Fijians had come to France. They were frightened of their security, and there were guys just going up and down in the lift all day, and they'd never left the island before. And it was just a different world. And I'd love to know, therefore, what it was like for you to take your squad to Rio.
Like we had all of that, Alex. Like in the lifts. I mean, like I saw it. Fijians going up and down lift, and never been on a lift before.
Yeah.
I can name. There's like 8 escalators in Fiji. I know where they all are. And like Masavesi Dakawanga is in that photo behind us.
Yeah.
He was in the Strip in Vegas, going to the cheap sports corner superstores to get all the stuff out there, and he was loading his trolley, and like had no money, and all the boys were there laughing, and we were like, what's his plan? And he went to the till, with all this, hundreds of dollars and he got his Fijian dollars out, and he's like paying them because he just thought, well, why can't I pay in Fijian dollars? It's dollar, isn't it? And Fijian dollar, American dollar, it's the same. So we have all of that stuff, first time in a plane, Massey in his first tournament, he's blind in one eye, and he was playing, he was airport security.
Wow.
And then, he was our 13th man Olympics, and then played in the semis and the final.
Yeah.
And then got a contract overseas. And he went into the NRL. And Gerard Hayne helped him out with that. And so we had all of that, and then we went to Olympics, and we kind of tapered towards that. We were the last team to get into the village when they have a lockdown in the village before the opening ceremony. We cut off any outside communications, no phones, no laptops, because I can control that, right? We were the only team in the Olympics that didn't have any phones or anything.
And why was that? Why was that required?
Why have anything externally that can potentially get in the way of what we were trying to do? I've seen teams self-combust. And after we won our semi-final, and the boys, we didn't have an analyst because I wanted to encourage them to show them how bright they are as rugby players. So I'd say a couple of things about the opposition, give them the game, and they'd feedback some really genuinely insightful stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So we were here. GB had just beaten South Africa, and they were getting their food. Every single one of them had their phone, and they were all going through their social media.
Yeah.
And I looked at them and thought, well, they look like they've won a silver, not lost a gold, and they were distracted. And people can say things, and they can put you off. So why bother having it?
Yeah.
The GB women's hockey team, they did the same, and there were very few, because people think the Olympics and the village stuff is like all the best athletes in the world, and it is. But half of them are Olympic tourists. Half of them, get knocked out first rounds, and then the village has a lot of distractions.
Let's say,
and even like
through more condoms than any other place on the planet.
165,000 condoms.
Is that right?
Yeah, something like that.
But then also like they did have a little sign on it saying Rio 20, so there's a bit of a souvenir aspect to that. But like first week in the 24-hour McDonald's, sign on the front of the thing saying we are reducing the amount of items you can take per person to 20. And like that is week 1 of the Olympics. Like so you have to manage all of that. It's not all Usain Bolts and American basketball dream teams. It's a whole plethora of different people. So then we just controlled that, and then my goal as a coach is to make myself redundant. And if that's the case, then you have to have your processes so you give players that empower them, and so you could go to a final, sit and stand, have a beer, knowing that they don't need you. That's where we were for that team. They led themselves by the end. And
is that it? I mean, what was I remember writing a tweet after you'd won, which just said, I think that's the definition of peaking at the right time. I mean, was that for you almost the most satisfying thing? Is that extraordinary journey from pitching up with no idea what you're doing to winning gold? It was almost your best at exactly the right moment.
Everything was right. I mean, you get this in team sports where you're trying to hit that zone of optimal function, and then if you're not overconfident, if you're overcompetent, which that team was, and then you've created an environment where they don't get overconfident, you keep those two things, then you really do soar, and that team just got everything right. And at no point was I worried going into Olympic Games that we weren't going to win anything other than a gold medal. I'd be like, we'd be in tournaments sometimes where, I'd be this ginger coach on the sideline panicking that the clock's gone to full time and we're 6 points down, and the boys just be chilled and go, it's okay, it's all right. And then we go length of field, outside offload, single fend, whatever, bang, score, and then they're like, don't need to relax a bit. It's only a quarter final. Just great, That's how they were all the time. And so when you're really well prepared and you're overcompetent, and when there's massive pressure coming from the nation that are just demanding that you win this, then if you're not got your things right, that pressure can really push down on you. But if it's all in line, then it lifts you up, and that's where they were. They just, I had this massive speech ready before the final. I've seen Any Given Sunday, and that was my moment. And I got into the changing rooms, and it's like, I say anything, it's only going to make it worse. So I just said, have fun. And off I went. And then we went to the tunnel, and the GB boys were on one side, and they were stiff, and they looked, as you would do, going to an Olympic final, nervous and everything else. Our boys were skipping through. Osea had his hand here, and it was going towards Rasta's arse as the referee, which wouldn't have been a great start. And then he just lifted it up, put it on his shoulder, and said, hey, have a great game. And that was that. And I walked around the back. I never say good luck to my opposite man before a game because I don't mean it. So why say it? So I went around the back, and then that was that, really. And 29-0 at half time. So then you can really enjoy and start to remind yourself of that journey, the cyclone that we'd gone through that was just horrendous. One of the boys lost his wife, had all sorts of stuff that had happened. And so it just, to culminate like that, was perfect. Yeah. And then come home to Fiji, which was just crazy town.
So you got
crazy town.
When did you last go to your waterfall?
I went back when they
just explain the context.
I said to you before the show, every time I see him over in the UK, I don't understand why he's here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, why are you here? Surely, you own half of Fiji now.
Yeah.
I said to him, you would be on a sort of a veranda with a decent sunshade, because I don't want him to burn, with someone fanning him with palm leaves and popping kind of grapes into his mouth. And he was like, no. I was like, mate, honestly, you don't know how good you could have had it.
Yeah, well, maybe I should. I mean, I spent a fortune on sunblock.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, it was that. I was like the Firth of Forth Bridge. As soon as you finish, then you start
get back
all
down the
over
other
again.
end.
Yeah,
Exactly.
back down there, and they're just laughing.
And also,
as
it's
they
thick.
chuck on some coconut oil.
Fact 800's thick, isn't it? As well.
I thought maybe there's a brand in that, but it's such a niche for ginger people.
And you're a dying race.
Less than 1%. It's a lie that we're a regressive gene.
Oh, is it?
Oh, it's just
made up by jealous non-gingers.
The 99%.
Yeah.
So when we came back, it was.
But you were given a waterfall. What title were you given?
So I'm the only, as far as I'm aware, I'm the only official non-Fijian chief. So Ratu is chief. Ratu Penny Rayani Latinara is my official name, and that's from the Saruan clan.
Yeah.
Which is a province that I lived in. And then they had taken the Queen's face off the coins and some of the notes, and mine is on 50 cent. But I do look like Napoleon Dynamite on it. I'm not. Yeah. And then
Just take it, mate. Take it.
And then a $7 note, which is really cool. They just thought, well, why not have a $7 to recognise that? And that's legal tender.
I didn't even know any of this. This is unbelievable. It is unbelievable.
Do you ever try and pay in $7 notes anywhere else around the world in sort of Fiji
I bet
style?
you do. Just like that. I don't understand why they won't take it. It's $1. It's $1.
No, but it's cool. So I flew back for that when we had to do the launch of the note and the coin, which was cool. And Osea, when he got married, the captain, I flew back for that, and then we had a look around the land and all that palaver.
And is it just growing bountifully and beautifully, or have you done anything with it?
No, we're gonna for a few reasons. I think we're hoping to turn it into a school. So that's the plan. And then
that's what I said to him. He's just the perfect guy.
Amazing guy.
But then I thought maybe it's because when I said to him about him sitting on the veranda getting fanned, maybe what's the school to start him early into the process of him feeding him grapes and other bits and pieces. But he assured me it was for actual good benefit reasons.
I managed to persuade you about that, didn't I? And so I want to. Ideal world. You spend 3 months of the year plus back in Fiji. I've got really good friends there. I love the place.
Wonderful stuff, as always, from the great Ben Ryan, a show favourite here on the House of Rugby. Much more from him in just a moment or two. But first of all, you are watching and listening to the House of Rugby, brought to you by Joe, together with our very good friends at Guinness, and our second of the best of summer shows. Don't forget, of course, to watch and download Swanee's Cricket Show, which is enjoying a remarkable pickup. Graham Swan and Nick Bright leading the way on that one. And amongst other things this week, they have told a quite brilliant story about the wonderful Sachin Tendulkar.
In India, have you seen kind of the hubbub around someone like Kohli
massive.
or Dhoni?
Yeah, massive. I mean, Sachin Tendulkar once flew commercially with us, so the teams hire, like, teams don't do it, but the Indian Cricket Board, when you tour, they charter a jet, and so the two teams and all the press fly on the same jet between cities. And the Indian players are all at the front of the plane, the England players are back by the bogs.
Right.
That's actually how it works. It's quite a nice touch, actually. So when they come, we give them a really shitty coach with everything, with the toilet that didn't work and everything. The driver has to stop with a plunger every 20 miles. But Sachin never went through the airports. And you think, oh, he's bigger than the game, sort of giving it large. He's not, because the one time he had to do it, the airport shut down, because even the people working at the desk, they can't be bothered. They were just like desperately trying to touch him and
really
trying to get close to him. Yeah. So normally you just cruising on a little G4. Yeah, there he goes. It's actually have a lift.
Well, that was Swanee's cricket show with the remarkable Graham Swan. Welcome back to the House of Rugby with me, Alex Payne, picking through the best of the bits of Series 1. And of course, this is a Ben Ryan special. Before the break, we heard about Olympic glory, but how did Ben actually go about picking his Olympic 7 squad?
The last week before selection, we said, right, we're just going to go head-to-head here. It's full contact, 17 games. We played 6 games on one day, 6 games the next day, and then final 5 games, all live. Invited the public to come and have a watch.
Yeah.
And it was Tuisova going head-to-head with his opposite man. It's Kunatani going against Mata, Leonie Nakarau, and they just went flat out with each other.
Yeah.
And after those 17 games, they all knew, well, they've had a chance. This is, and then I knew my pecking order from that. And those games were way better than the Olympics.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just phenomenal. Like, just clattering.
Pay-per-view.
Clattering the shit out of each other. And we never had a fight in training, ever. And we never did touch either. It's full on. It's just, but they're things you
do you think they're more robust? Because I think if you did that over here, I don't know how many players you'd have standing left,
yeah,
but their robustness at just the fact that they just weather that and they just
used
culturally...
used to it. But also, we still did lots of contact. I mean, when I was RFU my last year, I was getting told by the medics, only allowed to do 15 minutes contact and all that bullshit. And that just drives me mad. And that's kind of infected the game a little bit. I mean, we all care about player welfare, 100%. But there's also, you're preparing for a game that is contact.
Yeah.
And you get better at it, then you're going to be better at avoiding that as well and going into the spaces and not the faces.
Well, our episodes with Ben are very much like Jack and Ori. We wind him up, let him go, and the stories just flow off the back, including this tale about the remarkable Jerry Tuai.
Jerry's lovely. So Jerry I first saw him playing in a tournament, and he was very much good on one side of the ball. He'd beat people brilliantly, and then disappear. And I thought I brought him into training, and at the training ground we have this lovely pitch that we had created that the boys actually dug out the irrigation system, and we got bushes on either end, and the boys were doing returns, so 100-metre returns, and then you give them like a certain amount of time off. And it was at one of our fitness sessions, and they were doing the 100 returns, so 200-metre in total. And I was just looking at their resting, and I kind of checked out the numbers down the line and thinking this wasn't the same amount of people that started this session. And then you can hear a bit of rustling in the bushes, and some of the boys were hiding in the bushes. So I grab them and kick them out, and we carry on the session. We finish the session. And out of all those guys, those bush babies, Jerry was kind of the one that stood out. He needed to have this connection between playing and training. He just thought he'd turn up at the weekend and turn it on, and he didn't have anything underneath that. So I said, Jerry, come on, I'll take you home, and I can come and meet your mum and dad, and we'll have a little talanoa, a little chat. So I took him to Newtown. And I guess you kind of think people live on the beaches and in beautiful Fiji, but most people are inland. Jerry lives in a settlement. It's a really rough part of Suva called Newtown. After the Olympics, a German journalist asked him to ask him some questions about how he learned how to play the game. Must have been great with a coconut on the beach, and he just took his shoes and socks off and showed him all the scars on his feet and said, "No, I learned how to play rugby on a roundabout," and he did. And his house was off the roundabout. It was a shack, 2 rooms, corrugated, no generator, long drop round the back. Mum and Dad had a small room, and then the rest of them were all in one room, brothers and sisters. And I saw Parasa and Venice's mum and dad. I said, hey, you've got a really talented son here, but he just doesn't want to work hard. He doesn't see that connection. I need to help him out. And so
Vunissa said when he left school at 13 or 14, his dad, Poassa, dives down Butha Bay to catch fish, spear fish, bring them up in the morning. Jerry would be on the side of the street selling the fish. So I was like, 15, he was doing that. I was playing table tennis with a jumper probably like this, getting to school early. I certainly wasn't working like that. And so when he was about 15, 16, he came to see his mum and dad one day and said, I want to play rugby. It's my dream. I want to be a professional rugby player. They didn't say anything, but mum and dad went without food for a week. They went to Joe White's, the only sports shop in Suva at the time. They got the cheapest pair of football boots, saved up, got him to sit down a week later, and they gave him his boots. They gave him his left boot and said, this is your knife. Gave him his right boot and said, this is your fork. He said, this is now what you're going to use to put food on the table for us. And they kind of backed his dream. And I was like, I was taken aback. I didn't know what to say. And it reminded me, that from that I had to connect. I had to find out. I'd go around all the Vale, all the houses, meet all the families, find out exactly what all their triggers were. Yeah. And then get people on side. And it's a bit like a New Year's resolution. You tell as many people as you can about it, so you don't give it in as easy as you could. And me and Jerry then had this really good relationship over the next 3 years because he's also addicted to chocolate. I mean, literally, he'd be knocking on my door in hotel, like in Japan, knocking on my door. Kerry Ben, chocolatini, and so rather than they didn't have any money, so they wouldn't have been able to buy anything in Japan. So I took him down to the hotel lobby. We went to a little kiosk, bought him some chocolate, and kept him going, bubbling away as his little treat. And that kept my communication, my little chats with them, to try and get the best out of him and slowly weed him off. Because I did have to take him to the dentist once. I got him to the chair at the dentist. And the dentist was coming in to inject him, and he had enough. He just busted out, ran down the high street. I was with Rapati, our manager, who's 176 kilograms, and he wasn't going to chase him, so it was down to me. So I just sped down to the high street, shouting at Jerry, come back. And he's like, I'm not coming back. I said, you get your teeth done, otherwise you're not playing in Hong Kong. And eventually the following day we got him back. That kind of happened all the time, things like that.
How incredible.
Yeah.
Did you ever speak to his parents after?
Yeah, well, they did a little documentary on him afterwards, and I met his parents in Suva and we had big hugs, and Jerry's girlfriend, now his wife, had just given birth as well, so... and they've got, the house has had an extension done, and lots of other things have happened now. He's bought some crop, so that he wants to. His dream is to go to Vanuatu, where he's from, another island, and be a farmer there. When he retires, he is an amazing kid, Jerry, and he was just, they've all got backstories. Yeah. They've literally all got stories like that.
The knife and the fork. Did he have those on his boots? I remember him talking.
He wrote knife and fork on the bottom of his boots, and so he was playing tournaments, and that's just to remind him. And
Semi Kunatani. I feel this is a bit like sort of Jack and Ori. I just sort of want to lean back and just say, do you know what I mean?
So Semi's here now. He's in West London. I actually haven't seen him since he's come over. We've just been, although he's on Instagram religiously. And Semi was, again, he was another kid that I saw him playing in a tournament. And just was a one-man wrecking ball. He was just amazing and a huge engine. So he comes up from the interior. So he's in Nandronga province, which is like the Wild Stallions province. He's up in the top in the villages where they actually, some of those villages farm cannabis and all sorts of stuff going up there, and it's very remote. And his mum died when he was a baby, so he kind of got brought up by the women of the village. And his dad was quite old, and unfortunately he's passed away as well, and very, very, very poor background. But he just shot to fame really quickly. And this agent turned up one day, week before Hong Kong, my first Hong Kong, turned up day late, drunk. And, we got open train sessions so the public can all see what's going on. And Oscar is with me, the captain, and he can see what's going on as well. And we're doing fitness, and Oscar goes, just leave this one to us. So we get him to do the fitness. I mean, we're doing 200-metre hard sprint returns, short recoveries. He's throwing up. He's struggling. The boys have got no time for being nice to him. They're getting him through this, and then giving him a very strong chat at the end of that to tell him exactly what his values are, how lucky he is. How even though he's come from nothing, and we dropped him from Hong Kong. That's actually another good story about the Hong Kong Tens that I'll leave for another day in Tanumanga, pinning someone again. Well, but
do it now.
We dropped him, and then and he played in the Hong Kong Tens for Tana, And then in the very first minute of the very first game in Hong Kong Tens, he got red carded, apparently for grabbing someone by the balls and getting a red card. Didn't do it. In fact, but the rules were that a red card, there's no sighting camera in the Tens. You just get banned the whole tournament. He's flown all the way from Fiji to play 5 minutes. We meet this sighting officer, who I can't name, but very posh English guy, and the guy that got red cards, the guy that
was he wearing a fake nose and moustache?
Well, the guy that got red carded, the sighting officer, it was like, well, he was like, well, who am I supposed to believe? Some Pacific Islander or some Australian that went to Oxford?
Ooh. Is that what he said?
Yeah. At which point, I'm holding Tanner back because he's ready to go. I would love to have had a crack as well, and that was semi, and then the following year he came back and scored 2 tries in the final against, and then he did everything else, and he puts a lot of money back in the village and does lots of various other things. So.
Extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah,
definitely one of your relatives, wasn't it? With the sighting commission.
Man,
if he'd been there, though, he would have offered you out for a duel. Would have demanded satisfaction, leather glove across the face,
pistols at dawn. Almost the most remarkable story is the hurricane, and I'd love to sort of for you to share. And just, I mean, are there any other angles now when you reflect on that now? I mean, just what
from
an
the cyclone.
Extraordinary story.
No, I mean, like this. It's hard to actually, unless you get a cyclone season just started in Fiji. Yeah. They've just had the same thing. Not saying this happened, but they've just had another cyclone warning, and then most of the time,
what is the cyclone warning?
They've got a lot of people that meteorologists that will kind of say there's one on the way potentially. Or it builds, grades from TC to cyclone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. You get warnings, and like for the 3 years I was there. Those they end up somewhere else. They never hit Fiji. Tonga got hit once, Vanuatu and Samoa, I think, but we didn't. This one, same thing. It built up pace, going from a category 1 to 2 to 3. It went past us. And everyone thought, okay, that's what. It stopped. It turned on itself and went up to category 5. So it's twice the power of the one that hit Katrina. It was the biggest, and still is the biggest cyclone to ever hit a southern hemisphere, and the second biggest recorded in the history of mankind. This thing was motoring, and it was heading straight for Suva, and we get 6 hours notice. So you literally then board up the house, chop down any trees that are nearby, get all your rationing in. Police call a curfew, so you're not allowed out, and the army have a curfew on you. Grid goes down, mobile network goes down. You have a little safe room in the house where you put a mattress against the wall and get all your water in, and then you literally off the grid. And it's 6 hours. Now, the cyclone ended up going about 30k north of Suva, and so it hit the north of the eye. Yeah. And it went through Ropati, our manager's Cholera Island, and it just did. The island was never to be the same. When the Australian army came to help afterwards, he said it was just like a war zone, but people having to still live in a war zone. And you get this 6 hours. And the weirdest thing is that this calm before the storm, it literally, you about an hour before it starts to build up, the animals have just disappeared. There's no noise. It's still, there's no clouds. It looks like an absolutely perfect day. And it's really eerie. And then you get in and then you just wait, and then it starts to pick and pick and pick and pick until we hit the kind of the height for us at about 2 a.m. And you're getting that kind of feedback that you get in a microphone, because the noise, the sound is going through bushes and going through trees, and so fast it's getting this feedback noise, this really high pitched noise. And things are crashing around, and I forgot that I hadn't taken the gas canister, hadn't detached it from the house, and realised I needed to do that. And I tried to. It was like Wizard of Oz. As soon as you open the door, like everything going through. So my wife at the time, Natalie, was like, "You're not going outside." And we were 70k south of the actual, the eye. And so we wake up in the morning and you just see everything flattened, and where we were, it was like coconut trees, even like stripped, and they looked like cocktail sticks. And then eventually 3 days, I think we weren't allowed out. And eventually you're out and you're starting to go around, and you're seeing some of the houses had so much wind on them that they self-combust, and the girders flew out and they fly into the sides of the hillsides. So you're seeing all these things sticking out. One village that had a small 5-metre water
a small river running through it, suddenly it become 200 metres, and those villages didn't exist. And even with 6 hours where everyone could hide away, still 50 people lost their lives, and a third of the population were homeless. Some are still in tents. So we eventually, on and off mobile network picks up here and there, and we're supposed to have a training camp because Vegas was the following weekend tournament. Yeah. All bar one of the boys gets into camp 4 days later. Like, it's ridiculous. They're all literally like their families. Some of them didn't know where some of their family were, but they're all like, well, it's like going on national service when you pick for Fiji. It's like it just goes above everything. You've got to get to the team. Yeah. You've got to get to the training, and all bar Pio, because Pio not only was his wife like very ill, his house got completely destroyed. Pio's Josh Tuisova's his brother. So he had to sort that out. He was the only one missing. They all rolled into camp. I stupidly tried to think, let's try and do some training, and they just, because not only had they not eaten, and it was really hot as well. They were dehydrated. On the back of any national disaster, you get a virus or you get illness, and we had this really strong Zika virus, which is very powerful. Conjunctivitis. So 90% of the population got it. And I still have to take drops.
Really?
Because if I don't keep on top of it, then it comes back. And so we just said, like, rest up. I sent them all to bed. And then the following day we went around to the villages and tried to help the villages. Thought it's no good us training when the villages have got all sorts of stuff that they need to be rebuilt. So we did that. And then we rolled into Vegas, got to the airport at Nandi to fly to Vegas. Airways stopped 4 of the boys flying because of the conjunctivitis, because it's so transferable. So we eventually got the team to Vegas, and just illness. I think we got 7 on the pitch in the first game, lost the first game to Samoa, and the boys literally, we rounded the horses. We had a little chat. We talked about home, and then we went on and won the final. And that was probably the most emotional I'd been after that win because of everything that happened. And so we were completely buggered after that on Sunday night. So I didn't have to worry about the boys going out in Vegas. They were.
You seem quite emotional about it even now.
Yeah, because you kind of remember, like I say, unless you've actually been in a national disaster, if you've not been to that, it's really hard to explain exactly what it's like. But the thing that just always amazes me about the boys is, like, some of them, like, they lost family houses. Not only that, like, the tidal waves that came into the villages afterwards were just salt water. So if there was a farming village, they can't farm for 3 years. They've got to find another income, the whole village. There's no insurance. Our manager, Rapati, his family home just was flattened. Nothing. He's got nothing. And they're all kind of, that just, dropped my mobile phone in the toilet. For me, it's a disaster. Yeah. For them, they'd lost everything, and they're like, "It's all right. We didn't have much to start with. We'll just get on with things." It's just an amazing attitude. So yeah, that kind of does. Yeah, you remind yourself of actually being lucky that you're around people like that, because they're super resilient. And that was a tough time.
It's an extraordinary story, isn't it? Have you been to Fiji, Samoa?
I haven't.
On the bucket list?
Yeah, 100%. I wish I'd done it when I was actually going to do it when I was in New Zealand, because obviously you're closer. Yeah. But I think I'm going to. I think Billy V's got a wedding in Tonga, so I think I'm going to go. I want to go over and visit.
Tonga's lovely, yeah.
Yeah, I want to. I want to go over there. And visit. Just because each island, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, I know people on it, and I'd love to go and see what it's like firsthand. And Chloe's travelled around Fiji. Yeah. She said it's the most beautiful place she's ever been on Earth, and she's desperate to go back. So we will 100% do it.
You mentioned Pio, and I'd love to just. What you've described, I imagine, with the cyclone is the hardest experience. But was Pio almost the hardest day you had as Fiji head coach?
To drop him from the Olympics, to be bedside when his wife's dying from cancer. For him, he just knocked it all away. Thinking it was all right. House destroyed, wife died, 2 young kids to bring up on his own, no income. He left school at 13, so sevens was his only income, and we were paying, $3,000 a year, and you get your you try and get your bonuses, and then he just wasn't making the grade as we were getting closer to the Olympics, and he kind of was eventually then, he said, one of the boys said, you better go and see Pio, and I went to see him in the dormitory after training, and he was, he was fitting in the bed, and his eyes were rolling back, and it looked like he'd been possessed. I don't think he had. I think he was, that was his way of kind of going, I need to protect myself here. I know this is getting a little bit too hard. I think it all just came on top of him, because he was the most talented, probably the rugby player I've come across.
Really?
For his size, 6'5", 110, 115 kilograms, maybe more. His ability his hands were just ridiculous. You've only got to go on YouTube and have a look at Pia Tuwai's offloads and stuff. They're just amazing how gifted he was. And so I kind of look at it in a positive way, that we got 25 tournaments out of him over my 3 years, which, he'd been dropped, he'd been all these things that he had never really had a decent run, and we got him fit for a period. But all those demons came back really a little bit too much. And I didn't have any compunction not picking him, because ultimately, it was him or someone else that also came from a bad, and Bill Viliami Matu got in the team in front of him. It's difficult. You get close to people. I care about the players, but ultimately you got to be black and white and on how you come around your decisions.
Yeah, amazing guy.
Can I ask something? So obviously you said about the $3,000 a year. Is that what they got paid?
Yeah. So there were no contracts to start with when I came to Fiji. It was you get an allowance that was the same since Waisali Sarevi's has been around. It was $100 a day, 30 quid a day when you were overseas. And then you just get a win bonus if they pay it, if you win a tournament. And normally, I think we might have talked about in the last one, a big cardboard cutout of a cheque that when you arrive in Nandi, but that nothing ever appeared. And that's when people like Osei Kolinsau would stand up for the boys, and then he gets labelled a troublemaker and then gets ditched by the team before I was there. So, yeah, that's what they were on. And then I managed to get them contracted, and they were on between about 10 to 15,000 Fijian, which is about $2,500 to about £4,500.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
insane.
no.
But do you think so? I used to play with Dan Leo at WAS.
Chairman of the Pacific Rugby Players Association.
That's what I was going to ask. So Dan came in to when I was at WAS and had a chat, and I knew a little bit about the fact that Pacific Island players weren't just earning money for themselves, that they were earning money for their families and everything else, and that sometimes there was one player, I won't name the team, but apparently had 100 people waiting, on living off what he was going to bring. And obviously, for me, Pacific Islanders are always the best players. They're incredibly talented. But obviously, Dan was the first one set. There are some problems that come with it, with alcohol and bits and pieces.
Yeah.
A lot of that is almost, education, exposure to new things they haven't had before, but also pressure. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no way of venting it. Men aren't great at communicating their problems at best of times. From what I gather, Pacific Islanders aren't that great at doing it.
Yep.
Even worse than us. And I followed Dan. I was really interested about what he was trying to set up, and he explained that to me, and that kind of almost moved me, because people look after their families, have pressure, but you don't realise that there's literally people that if you fail or you make a mistake, or that all of us make mistakes, that there's that added pressure. And I've seen a lot of stuff he's talking about trying to get world rugby on the table, and that the division of wealth should be there. I obviously assume
they have now got a seat at the table.
Oh, have they?
Samoa have, haven't they?
And Fiji.
But Tonga is still waiting.
Yeah.
So they now have a vote at the council.
But what's your view? Because that's what I wanted to know about. Because obviously, having seen it, it's easy for us. Like, it's always easy for people who are in, a privileged position to talk about things and do little bits and pieces. But ultimately, we go to bed in nice houses, do whatever, and we don't. We switch our phone off or whatever, and that's not a thing. You've obviously lived it, both sides of the coin. I wonder, do you think there is more that we can do as a rugby thing to help? Or
Oh, there is. I think you're right though, that sometimes the boys don't help themselves, and they sometimes do get things wrong, but often it is the pressure, and often it is coming from from Fiji, from a small village into Paris or London or whatever, and it's tough. And you're absolutely right. In fact, not only will they pass their money down, sometimes their parents don't think. They might even be in their mid-20s, that they're old enough or should have their own bank account. So the club's paying directly to their mum and dad. It's not until they probably had a couple of kids and they're married that they feel that they're adults and able to do that. And then, I've seen it where
they might have 3 agents, a Fijian agent, a French agent, and not a New Zealand, and they're all taking 20, 30% and left with peanuts.
3 quick-fire questions to finish. Do you think you will live to see the day a Pacific Island nation wins the Rugby World Cup in 15s?
Oh, man. Well, I'm a positive person. I hope so. I hope
Amazing,
so.
that, wouldn't it? I mean, can you imagine the party in Suva?
Yeah.
Fiji, we went in 07,
I
didn't they?
think like from statistically, gingers kind of go early.
I'll give you another 30 years. With all the knitwear, you're well insulated. I
Yeah,
think
that's true.
you're not going anywhere anytime
No, so
soon.
fingers crossed. Yeah, that would be
What a story that would be.
seismic.
What are your sort of relationship? What's your relationship with Fiji like now?
Well, with the people and the players, it's brilliant. You know, I speak to most of my ex-players or the boys that are playing regularly. When I wake up, there's always a couple of messages on
that.
Facebook, and I help them as much as I can. And with the people, is the same. I hope I'm allowed in the country next time I come in. I have been outspoken about a few things, but it's only kind of fighting for the players. And I say what I think. So there's lots of rumours I'm on the blacklist at the moment. So I'm trying to find that out.
What would that mean?
Won't be allowed to, when I fly in. They just either they'll send me back or what, or they'll.
What, you literally get through passport control? They're like,
yeah,
absolutely not.
yeah,
Off you go.
Yeah, back you go.
So,
that's not I really hope that's not the case, and that's just a rumour that perhaps has
Dammed up
been
your
done.
waterfall, concrete it in, ploughed your house into the ground, and then just carried on.
Suddenly, I can't get sunscreen anywhere.
So every time you try to get into your house, all the doors are locked, all the umbrellas fold up.
Putting jumpers on to cover my face.
I give you 2 minutes.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, that's a
Constantine. The movie's Constantine with the guy from The Matrix in it. What's his name?
Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves in it. There's a character in it who literally he has to stop the voices, so he tries to drink alcohol.
Hopefully they won't hopefully customs haven't heard this, because that would be a.
I love that.
We
I
had
honestly
some
give you 2
feedback
minutes.
actually. We had quite a few Fijian commenting on our YouTube video off the back of your
Oh,
last
great.
one. Let's hope they don't tell customs. Well, that leaves just one more thing. The Guinness Perfect Pour. 119 and a half seconds of pure joy, because that's how long it takes to pour the perfect pint of Guinness. We remarked your Harry Potter specialist subject last week. I gave you 15 out of 20, but they've done a recount. And I'm being told that you actually genuinely scored 4.5 out of 20.
Right. And we know who marked that up, and it's someone that you'll never see the light of day in front of the camera, and he's never going to see the light of day again. I'm not even going to mention his name to give him the airtime, but he's a vindictive bastard.
And now he's going to mark you down again. This week, Ben, you're very welcome. Do you know anything about Sherlock Holmes?
I know that Baker Street. That's about
Very
it.
good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll come to that.
Oh, no, I've even forgotten that.
right.
I haven't listened to it.
Concentrate. First answer only. This week, the self-confessed Sherlock Holmes expert has
I
another
didn't
quiz
say
to try and
expert.
master.
I didn't say expert. I'm not expert at any of these things. I'm actually
it's
literally not
evidently
expert,
clear. If we can try and not lose your cool at the end of this, that would be appreciated. Although I think it does a lot for our viewing figures
Yeah,
and
I can't promise.
downloads. Are you ready? One answer and one answer only. Let's make it quick. Question number 1. What was the name of the landlady of 221B Baker Street?
Mrs. Oh, God, I've paused it up already. Hold on. Mrs. Hudson.
Correct. We are up and running. Where did Sherlock Holmes keep his tobacco?
In a slipper.
What was the curious incident? That's correct, by the way. What was the curious incident of the dog in the night?
That's someone else's book, isn't it?
What couldn't the dog do?
Bark.
Correct. 100% so far.
Excellent.
What was Holmes's hobby?
Playing the violin.
And another one?
He did loads of stuff on Ash, didn't he? Like
No, the answer's beekeeping. What is the name of Sherlock's older brother?
Mycroft.
Correct. What word is written at the murder scene in A Study in Scarlet?
Revenge or Raka.
Yes!
Yeah.
That is very good. Has someone given you these already?
No, they bloody haven't. Get
Trying
on
to
with
make
it.
a better show of it. What is the speckled band?
It's a snake.
Mate, this is really quite impressive.
I know.
Mary Morstan,
Yes.
who later marries Dr. Watson, appears first in which book?
I got 4. Book 4.
The Sign of the Four.
Oh, the
Correct.
Sign of the Four, I wouldn't know that.
What is Silver Blaze?
Horse. Racehorse.
Correct. What was the name of the magazine where the very first Sherlock Holmes story appeared in 1887?
Pass, I don't know.
Beaton's.
Right, I wouldn't know that. 'Cause I'm
This
not
is a
really-
very good perfect pull.
Thank you.
What subject did Moriarty teach?
of mathematics.
Correct. What was the name of the blowtorch-toting pygmy in the sign of 4? Not Fiji, not Samoa.
Tonga.
Correct.
Oh, he was a little guy. Yeah, I remember
The Bruce Partington plans referred to what?
that. Submarine.
Good. How did Dr. Grimsby Roylott die?
Did he get kicked in the head by a horse?
No, but it was animal related or reptile related.
Oh, did he get bitten by a snake?
He did.
Yeah.
Where did Holmes retire to?
Oh, was it Somerset or something?
Nearly.
I don't know.
Sussex.
12 out of 15 in this week's Guinness
It's actually
Perfect
not too
Ball.
bad.
119.5 seconds
But do you know what
of almost perfection.
Do you know what this is, though? Is that because they normally set stupid ones where
No,
they go
they
mad.
don't. That's not fair.
And also because you've spoken really eloquently, and actually, I've actually for once been interested.
Tins will be delighted by that.
I'm interested is that now the viewing figures aren't great because I didn't lose my shit over this.
But that you nailed that.
Well, I did nail it.
Yeah.
So, you know, actually, you know what you're thinking? Clever, yeah? Don't worry about it.
No, that thought hasn't yet crossed
Yeah, it
my
has.
mind. Well, that is it for our second best of shows. Thanks to Hask and to Ben Ryan. We'll hopefully have both of them back on a new series before too long. But of course, we'll be back next week with more from the House of Rugby archive. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in. Please do leave us a review, and we'll see you in 7 days' time.
You've been watching the House of Rugby on Joe, together with Guinness. Drink responsibly. Visit drinkaware.co.uk for the facts.